Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Show. This is the world's most unique music show, talking about everything brutal, new, death, hard slam, grind, thrash, core, metal. I am one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horsecow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how you going?
Great. I thought I would wear my Adidas one for this tonight.
Very, very fitting. Very fitting.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
With us, we have a collaboration partner in crime, the host of the Life is Peachy podcast, coming to us straight from Australia, Mr. David Owen Blackley. David, thank you so much for joining.
Pleasure. I've really been looking forward to this.
We are glad to have you. So for our listeners, for our watchers, this came about, I think it was kind of by accident. David started commenting on some of our stuff. We commented some of his stuff, and we reached out. We said, hey, why don't we get together and why don't we do an episode? Because this way we can chat with each other, do a little bit of exploration, maybe melt some of the fan bases, right? Maybe introduce some of us to some of David's work in Life and Peachy and vice versa. And we decided, well, what are we going to talk about? We need something as a baseline, because otherwise three dudes sitting around talking about nu metal is, well, it sounds like most of our episodes, but that's besides the point. So the baseline for this episode is we are going to a deep dive into, I believe it is 2002. Do I have the year right?
2000.
2000. I was off by 2 years. 2000. Taproot's debut album, Gift. So we've all listened to this a couple of times. We're going to go track by track like we typically do. But first, David, I want to give you a chance for our listeners that may not be familiar with you, your show, what you do. I want to give you a chance to, how about you steal the mic? Give us a little bit of background on yourself, but also let's talk a little bit about the show.
Yeah, thanks. Fantastic. Well, Life is Peachy was essentially born from, I have a business doing music videos and music. Her name is, and essentially COVID hit and I wasn't touring. I wasn't being able to do my passion, do what I love. And yeah, I was thinking, okay, something's missing. I'm feeling really off. What is that? And essentially it was the art of storytelling, sharing stories through the connection of music. And when I was thinking, what can I do to fulfill this void? The podcast idea came up, and I never thought about anything like this ever before. But for me, and also I'm very much used to being behind the camera. So even doing something like this is really, really different for me. And I had to get over that hurdle of self-confidence essentially and put myself out there. But I was lucky enough to get the podcast up off the ground because I had worked with clients through Her Name is Murder Productions. So that's how I was able to come straight off the bat with Derek Green from Sepultura and Jeff Irwin from Willhaven, and had some friends in other bands. And then I was able to kind of get it going from there. And essentially, it's just a trip down memory lane, albums that mean the world to me. And this era of music, predominantly, you know, if we could say just around the 20-year mark ago, where there's a lot of love and there's a lot of connection. This is a perfect example of it. It's just a time that really resonated with a lot of people. And so the podcast is just a celebration of these albums. And I do every episode with a guest from that album. And we deep dive into the era of that band's career. I do put a lot of myself in there as well, because I love hearing other people's stories that aren't musicians, but fans of the music. And it's not for everyone in that respect, because I do a lot of sound design and I do add a lot of things, but I try to create an audio documentary. I'm mimicking really what I did with Her Name is Murder, but in the audio podcast format.
Awesome. And for all of our listeners, watchers, please do check out David's show. He does a masterful job editing everything. There's sound clips, there's samples, and whenever there's a reference, you hear it in the background. And it makes for an interesting listen. It makes for something that you really gotta kind of pay attention to, because you'll miss a second, and those are like, was that Ghostbusters? And then you got to go back, and it really is it's a fun listen. So we're excited to have David on, because we're trying to spread the love here, and it's funny because we all kind of started. There were a lot of nu metal. I won't say revival, nostalgia, memorabilia. Just like you said, we're at the 20-year mark out. And a lot of us, it was important music. It was an influential time. So a lot of us all started at the same time. And us here at Newbury, we were like, hey, let's reach out to some of the other podcasts and do some fun stuff. Because honestly, we're all sharing the same baseline interest, so we can have a go of it, right? And and everybody does things a little bit differently, which is what kind of makes it fun.
Definitely.
So let's dive in. Tim, give us some of the background on Taproot's 2000 album Gift.
Released June 27, 2000 on Atlantic and Velvet Hammer, which Velvet Hammer, I do not remember that label at all. Do you guys?
It was an imprint, but I forget who owned the imprint.
I'm not sure. I remember when I read it, I was like, Velvet Hammer. I don't even remember that label, but of course I remember Atlantic. Produced by Ulrich Wild, which very surprised me as well. But when you listen to the record, you kind of hear it because the production is, I think, kind of masterful on this record. I think it complements the band perfectly, to tell you the truth. The more I listen to it, I mean, I loved it back in the day, but as we started deep diving it, like in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, the production of this record is dead fucking on. I think. It's not their first record, but it's their debut
major label
record,
right?
Major label record, yeah. So, and I think I was very surprised at how many copies this sold, which was 250,000.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Is crazy because it's like new metal back then in 2000. I would think more like 98 you would get 250,000, but 2000 after Slipknot already did it.
Yep,
shit like that. You know what I mean? So, and also I was very surprised to see they're out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So it's like,
which is an interesting locale. Yes,
yeah,
very interesting locale. Yeah.
So it's just a lot of crazy facts on this record. I couldn't find too many facts about it, or I couldn't find enough facts about it, is what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm hoping you guys know a little bit more.
Well,
so.
I'm going to throw it over to David and say, David, how did you come across this band, this album? What was your experience?
Yeah, well, another interesting fact, I could have the number wrong, but I believe they signed at the time, it was a 7-album contract as well, straight up with Atlantic, which seems...
So I think I had that somewhere, actually.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I think they made it 3 albums before parting ways because I think the label kept believing like they were going to be, one of the next big bands. And they did, of course, have a lot of success for a new metal band. But I think they were always hoping the next record was going to be the platinum record. And they were always really close to getting there, but never quite happened. But I mean, for me, when I first heard Gift, it would have been the music video for Again and Again. We have this music video program in Australia. It's still going. It's called Rage. And they would have for about 1 to 2 hours between 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday night. It would be allocated just for stuff. And so year 2000, I'm in grade 10 at high school. So I'm staying up on weekends, or by that stage, maybe I'm going to parties. And if I was earlier, like if I was younger, I was of course probably in bed already. So I would pre-program the VHS player to record Rage. And then the next morning I would watch the music videos, and that's how I came across Again and Again. And yeah, instantly drawn to the vocal and his interplay between the singing, the screaming, catchy hooks. I'm a sucker for a good opening riff. The bigger, the bouncier, the better. So it kind of ticked all these boxes for me, and it had that sweet, early 2000s new metal color grade that was present on so many music videos as well. And so I was like, yeah, sweet, I'm in. Got the album when it came out.
I kind of think that maybe they were just a victim of being a year or two too late. Yeah. Right, because their major label debut comes out in 2000. The second album comes out in 2002, and by that point, things had basically crested. Right, they were on the 20. We talked, funnily enough, we interviewed the guys from Crossbreed last night. They talked about how 9/11 was just destroyed all these different bands, all the momentum they had, all these different tours, and after 2002, new metal is cresting. It's on its way out. The Pop-Tarts, like the Britney Spears and the Christina, are really starting to get some play. And you start to have, for I guess the next big thing in extreme music was kind of the metalcore stuff, right? As I Lay Dying, Killswitch Engage, the new wave of American heavy metal, that started to be the ascendant trend in guitar-based stuff. So I think they were just a year or two too late. Figure them on Ozfest 99 as opposed to Ozfest 2001. And you end up probably with a much different ending to that tale.
Yeah. There's a fact here. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Oh, no, I was just saying that's a really, really good point. I think I completely agree with that. There was such a great band in terms of songwriting and progression as well between albums. Like, they progressed really lovely, whether it was for everyone or not. That's another point, but they were just great songwriters, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they definitely were going the more rock route as they, matured, if you want to say.
Yeah.
Especially what was that? What was the big song off of the record after this?
Poem.
That's it.
Yep.
That was a huge song when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing here. So originally they were supposed to get signed to Interscope because they sent their demo to Fred Durst. Yeah. And he was supposed to work on something, and apparently somebody crossed him and he left them like a nasty voicemail. And they transcribed it on Wikipedia. It's pretty hilarious.
Wasn't that on the original album? That was the outro, wasn't it?
Oh,
wasn't there a hidden track? I could swear. I mean, I'd have to dig out my CD copy because now all I have is like the copy of Spotify. But I am 99.9% sure that recording is the outro or a hidden track on the first pressing of that album. I think I got to dig it out, but I think
gonna have to go to SoulSeek.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
It also this on YouTube as well. If anyone's curious, you can find it on YouTube.
Oh, so Jay was right. Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely out there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was apparently like they started talking with Atlantic at the same time, and Durst was like pissed off about it or something.
Yep. Yeah, he cursed at him because I think they went away from an Interscope, went to Atlantic. Yep.
Yeah, and then apparently he kicked System of a Down off of Family Values and all that shit. So I'm assuming Taproot was probably going to get a little slot on there too, and he got all pissed off.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I wish we could have found that and played that voicemail. We should try. I should try and look for it on YouTube while we're talking.
Funnily enough, it's not this album, but I remember, what did they cover? Tim, we did that episode where we did all the new metal covers, and it was a surprise on their first independent album. They covered is it Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car? Yes
it is.
Yes. on Something More Than Nothing, they covered Get Out of My Dreams and Get Into My Car. And I found that and I was like, wait a minute, no, this isn't the song that I'm thinking about, isn't it? But yeah, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, right. So a couple more things here. Tracks 2, 6, 7, and 9 are older demo tracks re-recorded for this release. They came from the 2 demos before this, which was Something More Than Nothing and then Upon Us. So it's 98, 99. I gotta pull them out. I guess they're on SoulSeek too. But apparently the whole record was already done like 3 years prior to this. So I guess they went in the studio and they wrote Drag Down. That was like literally the only track that they wrote in studio for this record specifically, which is crazy because now that we're talking about it, like you guys were saying, they might have been a year or two late, but if they would have put it out in 97, do you think that they would have jumped like a bigger, you know what I mean? They wouldn't have plateaued maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they might've been considered more innovative if it came out earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because like David said, the whole, and what catches me also when I listen to it, it's the whole singing and screaming vibe that he does, because he does. I mean, even live, he could pull it off perfectly.
Yeah.
Which was impressive to me. So, I mean, I'm assuming he probably did that in the studio as well, like singing it. So if he did, I mean, shout out to him, man. But I think what I was trying to say is I think if they would have released it, say 97, 98, I think you get a bigger push for them. You get a bigger sale going on and all that stuff, like sale of records. My bad. I'm exhausted tonight.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, they did Ozfest 2000, right?
Was it 2000 or 2001?
I think it was 2000. Pull up the wiki.
Was it? It wasn't 99. I think it was 2000. Let me look here.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, one more. So they also re-released the record with as a Japanese bonus track called Day by Day, which I've heard and is a very good track.
Yes. One of their best, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really good. I'm surprised it wasn't on the record, but I guess back then you also had all that stuff. Like you would get a special release for certain countries and stuff. I don't really see that happening too much anymore.
No, yeah, like it was always the Japanese edition. I know as well that Day by Day was also a B-side on the Again and Killer 2000 soundtrack. That's how I found it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the era where our soundtracks were just amazing, full of all that B-side content, unreleased stuff.
Oh, I got to check that out. I can check it. Tim, you were right. It is 2000 and 2001. They were on the second stage in both years. And if I remember correctly, I saw them in 2001 because I think I got a free ticket because I pre-ordered the Slipknot Iowa album from Sam Goody.
Yep.
So I got a free ticket. Because that was the year Hatebreed, Union Underground, Drowning Pool, where Dave Williams passed, Spine Shank, the whole nine. Yeah.
Okay. Did Ozfest go through Australia at all?
I lived Ozfest out through looking at it in magazines. Never made it.
But you guys have what's that big one over there? It's not Download. It's
we had Big Day Out, which was good for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Soundwave Festival was
I was just gonna say Soundwave, but I didn't want to sound like an asshole if it was something. I could have swore that Soundwave was the one over there. But I think you guys, it could have worked over there though. I think it would have worked for like a 3-day Ozfest over there. I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I mean, especially at that point in time. I mean, the nu metal stuff was huge here in Australia.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all that it was huge there either.
We could talk a lot about the Australian music scene because there's really interesting stuff that comes out of there, right? Like it seems like a sound, like some of the stuff with what was it? I Killed the Prom Queen, and then some of that stuff where there's a sound that almost gestates, and then when it explodes, I guess, Parkway Drive, when it explodes into the mainstream, everybody's following behind it. But David, let me ask you, what part of Australia are you from? Are you in the southeast, or is right where most of the people are, right? The southeastern corner.
Yeah, so I come from the state of Queensland and the city of Brisbane, which is on the east coast. So you got Brisbane, and then the next one is Sydney, and then Melbourne, and that's all down the east coast. But since 2014, I've been living overseas. I live in the Netherlands at the moment, but I try to come back to Australia every year to shoot music videos and to see family and friends. So that's why I don't have my normal setup with me at the moment, because I'm kind of just got my backpack and I'm visiting home. So
guerrilla podcasting. And David, for our listeners and fans that don't really know geography, like the difference between the eastern side and the western side of Australia is huge, right? There it is. I mean, how far is it if you're going from like Brisbane to what's on the west? Is that Canberra? Is that what's all the way over on the west?
So the west coast is Western Australia, and the main city capital is Perth. And the way to put it is, a direct flight from Brisbane Airport to Perth Airport, you're looking at about 4 to 5 hours.
So it's significant though. Like Tim, it's like you or I going outside. What is that? Chicago? Chicago 4?
We could get to LA in 5 hours.
Okay. Yeah. So, but it's deceptively big. Right, like that's not it's not like going from New Jersey to Philly to PA to DC. It's a much bigger landmass.
Well, Jay, I'm curious why you asked why you said most people live in the Southeast is, and then I thought about it. Is most of the country is just like woodsy, right?
Well, it's huge, right? Australia's David, here I am talking about your geography. Yeah.
I mean, like if you think about it, most of the center of Australia is just desert.
Desert.
So,
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, desert. That's what I meant.
yeah. Then yeah, the East Coast and the West Coast. You're right in what you were saying, particularly with the East Coast, which is Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. That's where like, you know, a huge chunk of the population is, because you got, I mean, it's just better living conditions. You're not in the desert. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so most people on the East Coast, you know, in layman's terms.
Okay. You guys have too many creatures over there. I'm good.
I am
my ass in
convinced.
Philly.
I am convinced the toughest people on the planet are the Australians. The toughest people on this planet are the Australians, because not only did the country start as a penal colony, right? So remember that. Literally almost all the flora and fauna is trying to kill you at any given moment. Yep. The cassowaries, the Portuguese man of war, the dingoes, the snakes, the scorpions, like these are tough people. Like these are tough people who have fought nature for hundreds of years. Like God bless them, right? Like God bless them.
It's definitely like the question I get asked most overseas when I meet anyone. They're like, whoa, you're from Australia. How do you survive? But yeah,
that would be me.
If you grow up in the city, there might be some spiders, maybe some snakes, but I mean, I've never had any unlucky encounters. The most dangerous thing for me is a magpie. It's a particular bird, and around mating season, or like when they give birth and they have their babies in the trees, they become like missiles. And as a kid, you're riding your BMX bike to school and you hear it first. It's like, and they just go. They try to like get in your eye and rip you apart. And as a kid, that scarred me for life. I still have like trauma from magpies.
I gotta look that up now.
Well, that's wild.
Yeah, I come outside and there's a taipan staring at me. I'm fucking out, dude.
Yeah, Tim is going to retire to somewhere in the middle of Texas where it's warm, there's no snow, and anything you see, you can see coming and shoot it with a shotgun and get away with
Absolutely.
Yep.
You're 100% correct. So, all right, so let's get into this record. But first, I want to say how many bands, and Jay knows this firsthand, tried to rip this sound off after this. A million, dude.
Everybody.
It's crazy, man.
Everybody. We did that underground nu metal deep dive. David, you might have heard a bunch of these bands. I put them in two buckets, and it's the biggest compliment I can pay Taproot. And the other band is Primer 55.
Yeah.
Because after a certain point, everybody fell into the Taproot bucket, which is sing, scream, decent songs, decent songwriting, right? Like traditional songer structures. And then there was the Primer 55 bucket, which was straight up aggro nu metal bro energy. And they kind of got binary for a point. There was a dichotomy where you either went this way or you went that way. Yep. You were either getting loose or you were singing, screaming, and everybody ripped off the sound. Loose.
So I'll start with David. Does this record hold up for you 20 years later?
So it can be really hard, you know, when you've got that nostalgia beer goggle on, because a lot of these albums as well, you'll just love it because you've loved it for so long, and you love it because of what it associates. I was excited to do this episode with you guys because actually straight up, I'm a pretty big Taproot fan, also with a lot of their other work. My favorite Taproot album is actually Blue Sky Research, the third one, which was a huge flop, and that was their last one on Atlantic. But I think I just really appreciate them as progressive songwriters. There's weaker songs on this album and weak moments, but I don't know. It's got a lot of bang for buck still. There's huge riffs. There's some really amazing hooks. And yeah, I don't know. You never forget your first, right? Like I found Taproot because of this album. So it's not my favorite Taproot album, but it still holds a real special place in my heart for sure, for a band that I really enjoy in general.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, this record holds up perfectly for me. This will be a record I listen to all the time now.
This is best exemplified by Jordan Sloan from Zone Zero's quote, where he says, people forget that one of the draws of nu metal is a lot of those bands wrote good songs, and these guys write good songs. It wasn't all, I mean, it wasn't all aesthetics. It wasn't all like tropey nu metal stuff. Like they literally write well-structured songs. One of the cons for that, which we'll talk about when we get into when we start going song by song, is it can get a little bit repetitive because they write songs so well and in a recognizable structure that you kind of sort of get deja vu. But again, solid songwriting, solid musicianship. Before we started recording, David called it when he said, the guitar tone is just unreal. So yeah, there's some good gems on this. All right, Tim, let's dive in. So here we go. The first song on this album is the leadoff song is Smile, 3 minutes and 34 seconds. So I'm going to start with you, David. By asking, were you aware of these guys before you actually picked up the album? Like, had you heard anything, or was this like a blind purchase for you?
The music video again was my first introduction. I probably had like Red Hype because, there was Kerrang, there was Metal Hammer, there was so many magazines, and I mean, they were my Bibles. That's how I discovered everything, particularly in Australia as well, when a lot of these bands, before they were signed, obviously were playing in America on the independent circuit, unsigned. We didn't get them over to Australia. So it was all magazine education for me. So I probably was aware of Taproot, and then I saw the music video, and then the album came out, and I got the album. Smile, the opening track. Like, I'm a huge fan. Back in the day, I would go to the music store, put the headphones on, listen to the album, and if the opening riff got me, that almost was enough. It had to be such a good opening riff, and then I would follow through with the rest of the song, and if I enjoyed that first song, I would just buy the album. The opening riff of Smile, it's huge. It's amazing. That song ticks all the boxes, and I think it's a perfect example of Mike DeWolf's, signature sound, those super huge crunchy guitar tones, and the vocals as well. It's got a bit of everything vocal-wise as well. And the end of the song, it's just an amazing, perfect kind of Deftone-esque type of ending riff. So yeah, I was hooked, man, after hearing this song.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a way to start the record out. I think the track listing in this, whoever laid this out did it perfectly, I think.
Yeah, the sequencing is very, very well done. And to start with a straight guitar note, and then he almost whispers before they go in full volume, right? That is David said it's a powerful statement, right? And this, I put this on while I was working, and I noticed this, and I had it on repeat, and I would always catch myself. I'm tapping my foot, and I'm like, "What am I?" Because you get sucked in. It's a well-written song. I find myself singing along. My notes were, "Holy shit, the riff!" And then I have a note here for a 4-piece band, right? They have a very, very full sound. Like sometimes you'll notice that when there's not a second guitarist, you're left a little bit wanting. But I don't know. Maybe it's the mixing. It could be attributed to this musicianship of the band, or it could be the mix. But it sounds very full for a 4-piece. Which, remember, in the days of nu metal, everybody was a 5-piece, a 6-piece, a 9-piece, right? So they brought a very big sound with a standard 4-member band.
Yeah, this song definitely sets the tone for the record.
Yeah, totally.
So we come out of Smile, and then we go to Again and Again, 3 minutes, 55 seconds. And I believe this was the first single off the album, right? Yep. I think out of I'm looking at my notes here. Out of all the songs this album, this probably made the most sense as a lead-off single because it hits all the different pieces of their catalog. But it's still friendly enough that if you had heard this on the radio at that point, it wouldn't have been a reach, right? Yeah. It wouldn't be like you're listening to pop music and then Cannibal Corpse comes on, right? It kind of fit the milieu of the time.
I had the same thing written down. It was a radio hit that wasn't a radio hit. Yeah. That's what I think. I mean, it's super singable. That's a big thing with this record for me is like, I like to, when I'm alone, think I'm a singer kind of thing. You know what I mean? And this is one of them records that like, you think you can really like do it to. And like, this is one of the more memorable songs on this record. Like when you hear it again, you're like, oh yeah, I know why I love this record. This is one of the reasons why, especially that chorus. I mean, it's super catchy and it's top-notch songwriting for that era, I think.
In hindsight, Tim, does it pass the second song test?
Oh, hell yeah.
So David, we have that whole, Tim and I have this idea that fast forward the first song, go right to the second. And the second song will tell you if the album's good or not, because everybody puts their first song is always the lead off banger. David, I want to ask you this, which is kind of off topic. You talked about how you found this band through watching your version of MTV, right? What other bands did you find solely based upon the music video? What ones stick out in your mind from that era?
Well, the biggest one, the most life-changing one, I was a bit of a late starter with Deftones. I had heard the name, but I actually saw the music video for Change in the House of Flies. And I mean, that just completely changed my world catastrophically. And then I went back, got around the fur, got obsessed with Adrenaline, and then White Pony eventually came out as an album, and then I got that. So yeah, that's the biggest one for sure. You were talking also about the vocals and like singing at home. It's one of those bands or one of those songs that, you know, makes you sing in a band. Funny enough, I actually thought I could be in a band. In 1999, I started a new metal band called Fake. And it was born because I was seeing these bands with people that were 16, 17, getting signed, playing with their mates. And I thought, oh, I can do that. And Stephen, the vocalist of Taproot, was a huge influence on me trying to be a vocalist, because I thought his voice was just so awesome.
It is wild. It is wild.
Very, yeah, it's definitely very unique.
So what happened, David? Did Fake ever get off the ground, or was it a typical over exuberant early teenage experiment?
Yeah, more the latter. We played shows. we played shows in our local area and in Brisbane. It was a really thriving skate park scene at the time. So we played lots of skate shows and little festivals and at some Brisbane venues. But it was definitely more just about trying to write new metal songs with my best friends. I realized quickly I wasn't a singer, but I just really, that was the way I could express myself at the time. New metal like gave me a voice, you know, it gave me a vessel to really have the confidence to start exploring myself and finding my identity. And so, yeah, then I thought, oh, I can start doing this myself with my own new metal songs. And so it was just a lot of fun, really, but it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, but you had the experience, you had the fun doing it, which is
you tried. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What do you, so being that Again and Again was the song that, you know, introduces you to them, I'm assuming this is a very special track for you then.
It is. I think, like, for me, there's better tracks on the album, but yeah. I agree absolutely with everything you said. As a second song, it ticks that box. 2 songs in, it's so strong that then, you know, you're in hook, line, and sink into this album, because track 1, track 2 are bangers. And I completely agree with everything you said in terms of how it's such a well-written, compacted song. It makes sense that it's the single. Like, it's got a little bit of aggression to get those people in that like the screaming, that are anti-radio or whatever. But then it's got that huge hook, and then it's got that bridge that brings it all back down, building it back up to the final chorus. It's an awesome song. And by me saying that it's not one of my favorites, it's just saying it's not one of my favorites on a list of really strong songs that I love from a great album. So I still love this song. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the next song for me is, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's one of them.
Well, let's go into it. So track 3, Emotional Times, 3 minutes, 3 seconds. Tim, start us off.
Yeah. Like I said, one of, if not my favorite track on the record. Absolutely love the chorus in this song. It's the song that gets stuck in my head constantly after hearing it. Because, I mean, the groove in the song, though, is what grabs me. But the drumming and the bass section in this song is especially important for me, and why I like this record, because I believe that a lot of people don't talk about the drums and the bass in this band. If you really go and listen to it in this record, it was super, super put up in the mix. And I think that whoever thought of that, because you guys know you don't really hear the bass guitar anymore.
No, the rhythm section is typically buried. Yeah.
Yeah. In this record, though, whoever mixed it, they did a fantastic job of highlighting that. And I'm a big fan of that. And I think this song definitely puts that peak for me with the rhythm section, if that makes sense to you guys.
No, that makes sense. I have almost the same notes. I have this is one of I said the chorus and this is instantly memorable.
Oh yeah.
And the extended I mean, that is where I had it playing, and I caught myself actually singing along, and I was on a meeting, but I didn't have myself on mute. And you know, they're talking about like, you know, work shit, and I'm sitting there going, they're like, Jay, you okay? I'm like, my audio must be clipping. I'm sorry, everybody. But I mean, yeah, it's a well done song. The chorus is instantly memorable, but I will say this is where I have a note where I have second time through listening album, this is where I start noticing structure can get repeating. Yeah. So I listened to the album once, and on the second listen, it's this track where my ear kind of went, huh, what's going on?
Definitely.
What were your thoughts, David?
Well, I actually had as well super strong chorus and strong vocals all around. So yeah, this song has massive chorus. I completely agree with that. I like the tranquil bridge on the song. It kind of takes you away to another place.
Yeah.
It's a little bit psychedelic, and it builds back to, you know, a huge crushing riff. So funny enough though, like when the song starts, the life sucks sometimes. That bit with the kind of programmed loop almost sounds a little bit comical to me with his voice. But then from then on, the song is,
I didn't think about that, but he's right. He's definitely right.
Yeah, right.
So I mean, so far we're 3 tracks in, and we haven't had a bad one yet. Let's look at track number 4, which is Now. 3 minutes 21
4
seconds.
Bangers in a row. Another banger
really
right here. Oh yeah,
you like this one?
I love this track.
What are your thoughts, David? Now.
Well, so you were talking about how Dragged Down was one of the songs that was written for this session, and all the other songs had been written before. I had read that it was Dragged Down and also this song Now were the 2 songs, only 2 songs written for Gift.
You know what? I might have read over that. Let me see.
Keep
talking though. Let me look.
I could be wrong as well.
Oh yeah, you know what? Except for Dragged Down and Now, you're 100% correct. My bad.
No, not at all, man. So I was kind of like listening to it in that headspace, seeing if there was a big difference in style and execution. I mean, this song, I think, still is really solid, but out of the 3 preceding it, it's probably the weakest, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's a good track though.
The stop-start of the, you know, now, like that bit kills it. That's awesome.
That's my note here. My note here is the chorus is an earworm, right? You can hear like when you just did it. I heard that riff in my head. The staccato notes. You can't help but forget it, and that's what makes it kind of stand out. Right here, I am at one side of my mouth saying that I'm noticing that the song structure is getting repetitive, but then you go back and you listen to that song, and that part is instantly just jumps right out at you, jumps out of your headphones.
Yeah. And then you go to number 5 and you get another banger. I mean,
number 5 is One Night Stand, 3 minutes 39 seconds. I said my notes are this is the best intro on the album.
Typical nu metal opener.
Yeah. And I said the layered singing, screaming in the chorus actually seals the song. For me, that was the note I took away here. And then, what is it? Once again, I have proven my strength to myself on my own. And then the last refrain where he screams and sings. And then he hits that extended, I can't I just killed people's ears. They were like, Jesus, Jay, don't ever do that again. But he hits that note, and it was different because it's the first time he does it on the album, but it fit perfectly. It fit perfectly.
There's this song right here I noticed. Being a guitar player, you tend to listen to stuff differently sometimes. And this is one of the tracks that really, really engages me because the way that they do the guitar swells in the chorus and stuff, and Who's the guitar player's name again? You guys said it.
Mike.
Well, who is
David's
it?
got it.
Mike DeWolf.
There you go. He does. I was watching some videos of him. He does a lot of, like, he does have the power chords in there, but he adds a lot of other notes with his chords, and you can always hear the ambience in the music he writes. And I think any guitar player that can make ambience with just one guitar, I mean, he doesn't even have someone backing him up, and he makes crazy ambient sounding chords. And I think this song is a huge, huge part of why this band was successful at the time, because the guitar was just very, very uniquely written. And I really just get excited when I hear that kind of stuff, being a guitar player. And I noticed because when I was younger, I was only playing guitar for like 2 years at this point. But now that I'm 20 years in, it's like, oh, now I see what he was doing. And now you see why so many people ripped it off.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah,
very true.
That's cool. It's cool to hear that from your point of view, coming from playing guitar, because it's nice sometimes when you can hear something and you can feel, but you don't come from that point of being a guitar player or a bass player or a drummer, so you can hear it articulated in another way. And yeah, I love that. I just had a 2 minutes 25. That part of the song is probably my favorite moment on the album. The bridge, there's so many good bridges on this album, and the bridge in this song would be one of my favorites. But I completely agree with the guitar stuff you were talking. Crunch over the huge nu metal riffs is definitely one of the most appealing things about Taproot. And like you said, the bass and rhythm section, man, super underrated. Taproot wouldn't sound out that.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, it holds this record, man. Even on the next song, it's huge and believed. I mean, I think it's probably one of the best examples of it.
I think having a good rhythm section is almost a double-edged sword, because like you said, it holds the whole band together because it dictates the pace.
Yeah.
But you run the risk of being so good that it almost kind of fades away, because if you're that good, if you're in the pocket, if you're supporting the lower end of the song and keeping the rhythm, people almost don't even notice, right? Like, it's almost like taken for granted that, the timing is spot on. They're not rushing. They're not dragging. They're in where they need to be.
I mean, think about it now. If you guys like sit here for a moment and think about what I'm about to say, the first 3-4 Deftones records, what really held them records together was Abe and Chi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially in White Pony. The groove in White Pony is fucking amazing to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get much better groove than that with them two. I think personally. I mean,
he's a great drummer. Like, just horribly overlooked, but he's a great drummer.
I mean, I've said it a million times. They're my favorite band, so obviously I'm going to think that. But if you take that away from me, like me saying they're my favorite band, it's still some of the best rhythm section in that era of time to me. And I think in this record you hear too. I mean, because then when you think about it, they went out with Deftones, right?
Well, you and I were at that show. We didn't even know each other. It was out at the Tower Theater. Yeah.
So this, I'm assuming that they hear Deftones, and you have to pretty much admit that some of their sound comes from Deftones.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's just in my opinion. I would think that. So.
Deftones influenced everybody coming out for a good 5-10 year mark, right? And then especially White Pony came out, and they literally reinvented themselves and rewrote that entire game. David, I did want to ask you, slightly aside, what is the best band you've ever seen live?
Okay. For me, Big Day Out, 2001, Amen.
Really?
Crazy you said that, because we just had John on and he said how great that show was.
Yeah, dude. I worked with John. I made a documentary with Snot in the UK when they were playing with Korn. Korn were doing their self-titled album From Back to Front, and played Daddy for the first time since it kind of was made. And became friends with Mikey Doling, and through that, like, I got to meet John as well. So I'm keen to check out that podcast because, yeah, John's a really cool guy, of course, with Snot and Amen. And yeah, that show, Big Day Out, man. I was at peak Amen obsession, and I made myself an Amen shirt. As soon as the gate opened to the festival, I went straight down to the bar and just waited at the front. And yeah, I was like this, you know, teenage kid, completely obsessed with music. And Amen weren't a new metal band, but with Ross Robinson, Indigo Ranch, Roadrunner Records, they kind of umbrella. So they came into my world, and there was just something about them that clicked with me. Probably the Ross and the Indigo Ranch thing. I was just super into that vibe. And seeing them live, man, I mean, I'll say it straight up, like, I cried. I was like a fangirl. I just had this out-of-body experience, and I guess that has to be my favorite concert experience of all time. And I got to meet Casey Chaos after the show. I like climbed a fence and I saw him 100 meters away. I'm like, Casey. Embarrassing, but I just was that the power of music, you know, it really means something to you. And these people are the face of that. So you really feel, especially back when you're a kid, you feel like you know them or they know you because the music resonates with you so much. So yeah, Amen. Big Day Out.
I know exactly what you're saying about that, because yesterday I was driving home from work and one of the dudes who I'm friends with now from my other podcast texts me all the time, like, how you doing? Here's another song we just did. And I'm like, dude, the dude who wrote one of my top 5 records fucking text messages me. It's fucking amazing, dude. And it's like you said, like, music is like, it's like that, man. Because I tell a lot of people that, like I can't believe like we're talking to you right now. You know what I mean? And then it's like, and then I get a text message like, yo, just wondering how you're doing. I'm like, wait, what? It's just cool to me, man, to like that you can get these kind of connections just through music. So I hear exactly what you're saying, man.
Amen is one of those interesting bands. They're almost like an enigma to us Americans because they're an American band, but they were huge in Europe. They were big in Australia. They were big everywhere but here. A lot like an analog would be like a Doggy Dog in the mid 90s, or even like, I mean, I hate to say it, but bands like Sick of It All, like they do huge in Europe. And then for here, they're kind of like slept on. And I never quite understood why. Yeah.
It is weird.
Yeah, coming from Australia, because like, of course, they were an American band, the whole Roadrunner, Ross Robinson, I just imagined or presumed that they were huge in America. It was only until more recently I found out that they didn't really have much of a fan base in the country they were from. And I found that really surprising.
Yeah, John explains some of that in the episode. You'll hear that.
Yeah, he said he spent, entire months over in Europe, and then it just come home and it was like kind of just forgotten. So yeah.
I want to get back to Believe though, because I think that this is my favorite track on the record.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
The rhythm section in this, I think I love the chorus again. I say it constantly. You have to write good choruses. This is the best chorus on the record, in my opinion. And I just think it's one of the songs that I go back and hit it again. That's just in my opinion. I know me and Jay are always different with the song stuff, so. But this is just,
That's probably what makes dynamics so interesting, right? It's boring if everyone agrees.
Exactly, yeah.
Because my note here is, you could have cut this.
Wow, see? It does not surprise me at all.
Oh, wow. I completely agree with the chorus thing. This is my brother's favorite chorus on the album and one of his favorite Taproot choruses. It's probably one of my favorites on the album for sure. And I wrote as well, like another epic bridge, vocally, riff-wise, just with the play between the singing, screaming technique he does. It's highlighted really well on the bridge here. Yeah. So I wouldn't cut.
You can't cut this one. See, it doesnn't surprise me, Jay.
Because Tim and I's tastes are like oil and water, which is kind of funny. Okay, so after
I would cut the next song, actually.
Okay, it's the weakest song on the record. You're definitely right. See, me and David are on the same page with this record.
Wait a minute. So hold on with Let's do Meant to Be. I find my note here was this is by far the most aggressive, straight through aggressive song on the album. Like this kicks in and he screams almost the whole thing. And I found it, and my note here was interesting that they would bury this as the first track on what typically would be the B-side, right? Because usually 1 to 6 is side A, 7 to 12 is side B. And this is basically the first track on the B-side. Now, some bands purposefully did that. I mean, the best example I can think of off the top of my head is Pantera's Far Beyond Driven. The leadoff track on side B is Slaughtered, which is one of their heaviest songs. But the funny note I have here about this song is when I bought this album, I couldn't figure out what a mentobe was because I'm looking at the title. I'm going, what the fuck is a mentobe? And then I listened to it and I go, oh, meant to be. Oh, I feel like a jackass. So yeah,
that sounds like something I would do.
I would
do that right now.
Exciting adventures in the English language. David, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's really funny with Mento because it's like the only song title that has the spell check line under it, that big red line, where it's going, what the hell is this word? But yeah, the first thing I have is, holy shit, that opening riff.
Yeah, it's got good riffing in it, but I think this is, at this point for me, the least memorable for me. And it's not one that I would skip, but it's one that I wouldn't be mad if it did get skipped. I think it's the weakest song so far, in my opinion.
Okay. So that takes us to, I think this is the one song we probably all agree with, track number 8, which I think is the longest track in the album. No, Comeback is 4 minutes, 15 seconds. So you said cut it, Tim. David said cut it. I even said cut it. And yet this was their second single.
Oh, no. We don't want to cut this one. I love this song.
Oh, no. You don't want to cut this? Is it just me?
We were talking about meant to be.
Oh, you guys want to cut Mentobe. Okay, yeah. I get it.
No. Hang on. I made a mistake because I didn't realize Mentobe was next. I want to cut I. I like Mentobe.
Oh, shit.
So
really?
David and I, you're outnumbered, Tim. So, Tim, make your case.
Dude, how do you not get I hate myself sometimes? I love myself. How do you not get that stuck in your head? This was the second single, right? Or what? Yep. Right? Yeah. Doesn't surprise me at all. One of my favorites on the record. I mean, it gets stuck in your head. It's highly singable. I just love songs that are highly singable and get stuck in your head. I think it's just, if it stays with me, I love it. And songs like Meant to Be that I'm just like, whatever.
Okay.
But I think on this song too, I keep going back to the drums because I think that it's the most powerful in this song. And I think it's it's an integral part of this record. Like I keep saying, it's the drumming in the bass. And I think in this song, it's one of the most powerful points of that. It's just crazy that you guys think that, because I think if they had a different drummer, this whole record, like we said, is just different,
Okay. What were your thoughts, David?
I just had probably my least favorite song from Gift.
Wow, I'm very surprised at that.
We're in agreement. We're in agreement there. It's kind of funny. Okay, so now let's hop ahead to the next track, which is track number 9, 3 minutes, 10 second, Mirror's Reflection. I have my note here is by far this is the best chorus on the album. This is the most
Deftones song on this record.
Yeah, the sometimes I would give anything to be something more, right? Like I mean, and what we haven't talked about yet so far is his lyrics, because his lyrics are fairly interesting in the sense that they're aggressive, but they're insightful, and a lot of it is you kind of get the sense that he's unpacking his own head. Right? Like, I love myself, I hate myself, or sometimes I would give anything to be something more, or once again, I proven my strength to myself on my own. Like, there is almost kind of this like hate breedy motivational quality to it, and which delivered in a way that, you would not compare him to Jamie Johnson in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No.
Well, what did you have for notes, Tim?
I think he channels his inner Chino on this song. This is one of them songs where I think, yeah, this fits why they put him out with Deftones. It's, you get the comparisons in this one. I think this track is pretty weak until the chorus. The chorus is fucking great. And we all know if you can't write a chorus, you can't write anything.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And just like David's been saying, you have to have good bridge parts and pre-choruses as well. There comes a point where if you don't have a solid bridge, like you don't get you don't get a part where the song completely changes in your head and where the atmosphere changes. If you don't have that, I think it kind of makes a lot of shit weak, but these guys do it perfectly on this record as well. So I 100% agree with you, David, with the bridge part stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I think this album has so many great bridges for sure. I actually had that this is one of my more favorite songs.
Okay.
I really, mainly coming to the vocal thing, like you were talking about, like his vocal play on this song is a lot of fun. He does a lot of things. And yeah, the bridge at 2:19 is one of my favorite riffs on the album, I think, as well, where it has a really awesome, odd drumming pattern as the riff keeps progressing. Jared's drums keep almost seeming like they're going a slightly out of time or off beat. And I think the drums on this are really good.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because as the record goes like further, because like we said before, a lot of nu metal records, like they start to fall off around track 7. Yeah, I mean, but this record keeps
they're still going.
It keeps it up. Yeah, it's impressive, man.
Yeah.
So coming off of oh, sorry, David, I'm going to cut you off.
No, I was just completely agreeing. Actually, I was just you got me reflecting even more. Like I mentioned, I is my least favorite, but it's not saying it's a bad song. You know what I mean? I keep coming back to that. It's just be one of the weakest songs of a really good batch. And so I agree with you. Like we're this far into the album and it's so solid still. Really, it's a good album.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
a debut. And that's the other thing, for a major label debut, right? Like it's solidly built. Again, 2 years earlier, they would have been massive. So coming off of the back of Mirror's Reflection, we have number 10, Dragged Down, 3 minutes 30 seconds. David, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts? What did your notes have to say?
Well, Mirror's Reflection ends so suddenly, and then I love how Stephen just goes, and then it's just blam, we're into the next song. That is a really, really cool way to begin a song. And yeah, we talked about how this was one of 2 songs that was specifically written for this album. And I think this is a solid song. It has really cool verse and chorus. And I think this is another chorus that really highlights how some of the riffs that Taproot have are really so fat and so heavy in a way that sometimes they can sound a bit noteless. And Stephen is really great at still creating a melody that is really dynamic, really hooky. And yeah, I think the chorus in this song is another really great example highlighting his ability to make really great hooks. And then, yeah, he has great aggressive vocals on the bridge, which then he continues overlaying those over the final chorus. So this song has like a lot of really good things going on and a lot of dynamic.
Tim.
It's the only song on the record where the whole band starts out at once. If you go back and listen.
No shit. I got to go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
My note here was this is to me where I noticed the bass. The bass riff is very prevalent, and I drew a big heart next to it. So it's very up in the mix. It's very, and I believe it's like kind of like if I recall, it's a quasi galloping sort of beat. I think the bass guitar is one of those instruments where it's best when you subtly, however you say that. But if you are going to make it pronounced, you have to make it unique. And right here, it's pronounced and it's unique, and it really fits the song. Right. Yeah. Because if you think about it, when you go back and listen to the rest of the album, specifically with bass in mind, it sits solidly in the pocket. This is the first song to me where it popped out where I'm like, he's got his own riff runway, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. I do think that the record could have ended on this track though. I don't really think you need to go any further, but labels didn't really allow that back at this time. So you had to put out 13, 14 songs. So,
which is kind of crazy, right? Thinking about now where most bands, you know, when you think of the bands that are consistently putting out an album every other year, right? Especially in the extreme music space. Well, who is that? That's Cannibal Corpse. It's Black Dahlia Murder. It's more of your metal friendly bands. It's 10 songs. It's always 10 songs.
Yep.
I thought this album was a little long. Truth be told, I have a note here which says if you had made this a 7-song EP, it would have been an absolute monster. because I think I would have cut some of the extra. I know that's like mind blowing to say, but I would have cut some of the stuff that I think was filler. So before we go into comeback, I want to ask David. So David, you alluded to this earlier, right? So you do videos and stuff. Can we talk a little bit more about that? Like what do you do besides podcast host? I guess is my question.
Sure. So I have a video production business called Actions. It was founded in Brisbane, Australia, 2009. And I went to film school. I always wanted to make movies. When I was a kid, I saw Broken Arrow, the John Woo movie, on the drive-in theater. And the train was exploding at the end of the movie. And as that was happening, I kid you not, like a shooting star fell from the sky above the screen. And I saw that and I just thought, I want to make action movies. And that, as I got older, that turned into wanting to make music videos and work with bands because I really got into music and numetal. And so, I started this business to do that. And I was lucky enough to work around Australia for about 5 years before moving overseas. And moving overseas was fantastic because it gave me the ability to have more chance to work with the bands that I really grew up with, the bands that I had their posters on my bedroom wall and would play air guitar to. Like Snot and Sepultura and stuff like that. So, I've just been really fortunate in that respect to be able to live out my passion of music through my work. And we do music videos and music documentaries. And then, like I said, because of COVID happening and a lot of stuff being shut down, then that's when the podcast was born. But essentially, like, my main baby is Her Name is Murder. But I have to say, after doing the podcast for 1 year, they're kind of like evened out a bit now. Like I really enjoy the podcast and it presents me certain opportunities that are a bit easier to obtain than it is trying to work with bands on a music video, music documentary level. So I get a lot from the podcast, but I also still get a lot from what I do with Her Name is Murder. So I'm not complaining at all. Like, I'm in a very, very fortunate position to be able to kind of be doing still, after 10 years, what I love, which is working with bands and music.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's fucking awesome. Man, I would love to do this kind of shit. Imagine getting paid for doing this, Tim. How awesome that would be. Right? I would never put on a fucking pair of pants again. It'd be great. I'd be sitting here in shorts the whole time. So now we're coming to what I think is the best song on the album. Track number 11, Comeback, which is long, 4 minutes, 25 seconds. Yeah, to me, this is the best song on the album. And I think it's...
I completely agree. I just want to say I completely agree with you. It's my favorite too.
There we go, Tim. There we go. You're outnumbered. You're off the island.
Wow.
I think it's a multitude of reasons. It's that quiet, almost electronic intro, right? And then the guitar creeps in. I think the chorus is beautiful, right? Because he screams and he sings and he hits some extended notes, and then there's the pinch harmonics in the background, and then the riffing, and I think I personally would have picked this and closed the album with this, because the next song I couldn't tell you what the next song sounded like if you put a gun to my head, because after this song ends and it goes into Impact, I always went back and went right to this again because I really just enjoyed it. So David, you agree with me? What were your thoughts?
Oh, well, I've got here, probably my favorite song. If I had to pick, and we are picking, I would agree. Back probably is my favorite. I think the song has a lot of dynamic, a lot of ebbs and flows. I really like also around the 2-minute 20 mark, when the pre-chorus is repeated, it becomes heavy and really lifts. And I think that bit is just really, really tasty. Also has another great bridge. It's just a good song.
If you guys go back and listen to this, he channels his inner Fred Durst in this one. I think.
You think? Okay.
Yeah, this song also has an Incubus Science feel to me. When I listen to it, I'm like, this sounds like an Incubus Science track to me. I think really? That I also think this is the most nu metal song on this record.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, hands down.
It's not a bad track. I'm just very surprised that you guys think it's the best one. But hey, I mean, everyone's got their opinion.
So what were your notes, Tim?
I just what I just said. He channels his inner Fred
Jay is
Durst
going to say this is the best track on the album.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I think it's got the Incubus Science feel to it. If you go back and listen to it, especially in the pre-chorus part, you could definitely hear that in there. And then it's just, like I said, it's, in my opinion, the most new track on the record.
Yeah, it's easily my favorite. And funnily enough, when I got the album out, when I knew we were going to do this deep dive and I went back and listened to it, I started with this song because I'm like, I remember that being my favorite song. Let me try it again. And I went, yep, still my favorite song because I hadn't heard this in however many years. So track 12, which was the final track on the first initial release of this album, which was Impact, 2 minutes, 49 seconds. I literally have no notes. It just says, Jay, go back and listen to Come Back Again. That's literally my notes.
This is the weakest track on the record for me.
You think?
Okay.
Yeah. I don't even think this song needs to be on the record, honestly. I think it's super boring. I don't really care for it at all.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. And in parts, I agree. I guess, yeah, it feels more like a B-side. I think like it kind of tumbles along quite nicely. Like it's quite when it begins to when it ends, it keeps moving quite fast and quite nice. It's very like, it packs a punch. It's pretty compact. And he name drops the album in it on the chorus. He says, "It's my gift." That's pretty cool. But yeah, it's a bit of a B-side song.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Speaking of B-sides, there's a note thing here that says they have other songs that were going to be on this record. One called Thrift Tour, Strive, and Get Me. And apparently they were put out. You can find them on like file sharing. So I'm assuming Soul Seek has them. Also, along with Day by Day, they later released as a 2018 box set called Besides. So I guess people that collect that stuff can have that, and you can probably find them tracks on YouTube, I'm assuming, as well, which I'm going to look for now because I didn't even know they existed, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, that whole first album is on what was it, Something More Than Nothing, is on YouTube. That's where I found that Billy Ocean cover. It's like buried in the middle of the album, which is kind of wild. And like Tim just alluded to, there was a Japanese bonus track. It showed up on the Dracula 2000 soundtrack. It was Day by Day. Solid song, but I think you're right in the statement of it's a solid B-side.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, David. So aside from all this new metal stuff, what else do you listen to? Are there any newer bands, anything else that we should be checking out? I mean, being as you're in the Netherlands and you're in Australia, right? Is there anything local that we should be aware of, or what other stuff as of late is catching your ear?
Well, I'd like to mention a band that isn't around at the moment or anymore, but they do link to this album in terms of working with Ulrich Wilde, because he mixed this particular EP. It's by an Australian band, probably I'll say personally our best new metal band, but easily one of the best. They're called Sunk Lodo.
Oh yeah.
And their debut EP called Society Anxiety was mixed by Ulrich Wilde, and it's like a banger. They're such a great band. They're anyone that's like our age and from back when the new metal boom was happening, they're considered Australian royalty stemming from that scene. And yeah, Sunk Load, American list. Yeah, any listeners out there from your podcast or American fans haven't heard of Sunk Lodo and are into, the bands we're talking about and this music, I would say check them out for sure.
And you interviewed them, didn't you, David? Like you had them on in one of your early episodes, right?
Yeah, it was really cool, man, because when I was talking about my band Fake and being inspired by kids that were 16, that was Sunk Lodo I was talking about. They got signed to Sony Music at the average age of 16. The drummer was 13. And yeah, crazy, dude. And I saw that, and that's what inspired me. And so for the 1 year anniversary of the podcast, I was able to get the guitarist onto the podcast to celebrate 22 years of that EP, Society Anxiety. And for me, that was like a dream come true, because that band means so much to me, but also to so many people in Australia. And so that was a really fun one for me, for sure. Luke McDonald. Yeah.
That's awesome.
13 is crazy.
That's kind of nuts, right? That's kind of nuts. Well, we just we just talked to Crossbreed last night, and they were talking about how, you know, they were all friends and they got signed, and their first major tour was with Rammstein. And the James kept saying, it's like, imagine like being on tour, your first major tour, you're opening for Rammstein, and you're all just like sitting there looking around like, holy shit, is this real? Like, this can't be real.
Yeah, Luke was telling me how in 1998, Van's Warped Tour came to Australia and Deftones were on it, and they were playing for Around the Fur. Chino saw Sunk Loto were playing. They weren't called Sunk Loto at the time. They were called Messiah. And Chino saw them and he really liked them. And he told the head guy of Vans Warp, put them on more shows, put them on more shows. They did that. And then Chino asked them if they would then play a 15-minute opening set for the Around the Fur show in Brisbane. And like Chino Marino had this massive role in really kind of putting Sunk Loto on the map in a way, which is really cool. And so like all that happened. The band had gone to Sydney to record their debut EP with one of Australia's biggest producers at the time. And the guitarist had only just turned 15. I was like,
jeez.
It's very nice of him to do that though.
Yeah.
That is kind of really wild. Cool. That is really wild. Yeah. When I think of like Australian bands, I think of King Parrot. I think of what is it? Psychroptic Australian, Tim?
They are New Zealand.
Yeah.
From New Zealand. We always take New Zealand. New Zealand, like Russell Crowe, for example, he's New Zealand, but we're like, oh, he's Australian.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah, close enough.
You have that little island that right off of Australia too. Was it like
Tasmania?
There you
go. What's the other band I think of? Oh, D's Nuts. I fucking love that band, and I say that, and people are like, "Wait, but that's a real band." I'm like, "Yo, Binge in Purgatory is a fucking great album.
It's a banger.
It is just catchy, track after track after track after track after track. Like, and I think they do, you know, they don't come to the States much though. They do a lot of Australia and a lot of Europe. Yeah. But I think the only time they did the States was the Warped Tour, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Did you know that the singer JJ, he was the drummer from I Killed the Prom Queen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And wasn't the guitarist in that band with him as well, or what was he in?
The bass player, was also in.
Yeah.
You guys have Confession over there too, which I really like.
Yeah, so that's Michael Crafter, who was the
Crafter,
Prom Queen. Yeah. Yep.
But me, Confession is so good.
Yeah, Confession. I enjoy Crafter, the singer, way more in Confession. Like for me, Ultimate Prom Queen was with the English singer Ed Butcher when they did the album Music for the Recently Deceased. Yeah. That Prom Queen, that's where it's at for me.
Dude, Say Goodbye I love that song. A fucking amazing song.
Man, I haven't dug that out in ages. Now I know what I'm listening to tomorrow.
Another one that gets stuck in your head.
That's a good metalcore album for sure.
Absolutely.
I gotta definitely dig that one out. Well, all right, so let's I know
let's do the thing here before, because it is getting late. Out of 10. Let's do it. I'll start. For me, this is an 8.5 all around. I think this record is very memorable. I will listen to it way more. It's an 8.5 for me out of 10. How about you, David?
Yeah, I was as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, this is really hard. But then straight away, I thought 8. So I'm gonna go with 8.
Okay. That's why I had David go first.
Yeah, I know.
I could see your face. You're like, fuck.
I think out of 10, I think in its current state, you give it a 7. I would give it a 7. I think if you shaved maybe 2 songs off it, 8.5, 9, easy. Yeah. And the more that we've talked through and now that I've talked through it with you guys, talked through my notes, I really am convinced 2 years earlier, this would have been like massive. Like, cause they were introducing that, I don't want to say mellifluous, but they were introducing that earworm sort of approach to nu metal that by this time, stuff like Disturbed and that early stage, like Breaking Benjamin, all that was starting to break. So they were kind of like the odd man out because they weren't like so radio friendly. But yeah, I'm convinced 2 years earlier, this would be huge. And like most of VOD stuff, 2 years later, they would have been huge. Just bad timing. Well, just poor choice. Just, the way the world worked. All right. So I think we're hitting up on time. So I want to get us out of here, but I want to ask David, obviously we're going to link to your show in the show notes. If people want to find you, they want to get in touch, they want to keep track of what you're doing, where do they go?
Yeah, everything is just with the / Life is Peachy podcast. So that's the same. There's a Facebook page as well, but I do most of the stuff on just the Instagram. And from there, you can find links to check out the podcast and anything else that's going on. So probably just the Instagram's the main place to check out.
Okay, cool. So on behalf of Tim, myself, David, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been really, really fun. This is hopefully the first in many type episodes we get to do again. There's plenty more new metal to dive through. On behalf of David, Tim, and myself, I want to thank all of you watchers, listeners for tuning in and listening once again. Instagram, Twitter, the Facebook group, _podcast. You know where to find us. Check out our YouTube channel, I will say, because we are starting to do some reaction vids and some listening, and we might actually go back and do some old videos too, some old new metal reaction stuff. So check us out, give us a listen, please follow David's podcast. It's a really, really fun listen. And until next time, this is New Breed saying peace.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks. You guys rule. Thanks for
you.
Yeah, dude,
really,
thank you, man.
Really, really appreciate the invite. Sorry to stuff the ending up, but I was like, I didn't get to say thank you.
No, you're fine, man.
No, not at all.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right.
Yeah.